Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of
Gato.
My name is Hans
I'm Edward.
and we're your hosts for now and forevermore.
Or until one of us becomes a legendary Pokemon master and just
Love.
goes off on our own adventure.
Love that idea. Like y'all know how much I love them Pokemons, okay? And we actually have Pokemon on today's episode, just like we did last week. So
book,
I
actually.
hope you're looking forward to that. If
Yeah.
you're new to Gettle, welcome to what we believe is one of the internet's best podcasts about gaming, entertainment, technology, and lifestyle, all wrapped up in a wonderful, geeky...
The espresso capsule.
I know we've had that one before, but I'm glad that that's
Did
what it
we?
is because there is
Did we?
coffee on the mind. Yeah. I'm just glad you've moved away from loot box because we've had that so many times in the past that I'm kind of just like done with it.
I'm trying my best, okay? Gosh. I'm trying.
Oh, goodness. All right.
Oh, boy.
So welcome, everybody. We hope that you've all been doing well. Edward, how have you been doing?
Good. A bit of a migraine yesterday, but it's going away now, so I'm good
that's
now.
good. That's good.
Yeah. How about you, Hans?
No issues on my side that I care to discuss on the podcast.
So it's those issues, is what you're saying.
What I'm
okay,
saying
we
is
don't
I've
judge.
spoken to you about them, but I don't feel like speaking about them on the podcast. All right,
I
ladies
don't
and
judge.
gentlemen, as per usual, we're going to go into some reviews and previews before our general content and then some luscious NSFW.
Well, it's a bit dark and gloomy today, just spoiler alert, so...
All right, okay. Getting straight into our reviews and previews. For those of you who are subscribed to my YouTube, you'll know that I've been quiet for a while, for good reason. But I recently released something for all of you wonderful podcast listeners for you to enjoy, and that is some ASMR.
Well, as much as ASMR you can do anyway.
Yeah,
It's actually super cool,
I'm by
to
no
be
means
fair.
a pro.
To be fair, it is lush, as you said. It's actually a good video. Long overdue as well. So there's that.
Yes, it's actually a ASMR of the Razer Hunstman Mini, of which I have also recorded a review, which I guess will come at some point in the future, as well as Edward's article on it, which I've completely forgotten to publish for the last 4 months. So
I forgot. Don't worry. I completely forgot about its existence.
It's been sitting there for months now. I completely forgot about it. I don't know why we didn't publish it. I think it was because we were waiting for the video. But I finally, I don't know. It's cool. That'll eventually come out and you can go and you can check out the website for that. Edward is very busy with a lot of games at the moment, Ed. Basically,
Yeah.
you don't have to give much of a real preview, just what you're busy with at the moment and what our wonderful listeners can look forward to in a future episode.
Super Mario 3D World 3D plus Bowser's Fury.
That is a long title.
It's a remaster of an old game plus a brand new expansion. So
Okay, cool.
That's something. And Persona 5 Strikers, not Persona 5 itself, unfortunately. But Strikers, I believe it's more of a battle game, I would call it, but I don't know what they are calling it because it's a weird hybrid title.
Okay.
Which is I'm not sure. And Hyrule Warriors, expect that like Monday or Tuesday.
Awesome.
And yeah, bunch more.
Awesome. Yeah, as always, we always have loads of things in the pipeline. And what we've decided to do is kind of when we do our previews, they're a bit long in the tooth. And it's kind of like, might as well just give you everything in the actual review. Now, with previews on the mind, it is an exciting week coming up. The Snyder Cut is finally going to be in our grubby paws. Isn't that right, Edward?
Yeah, literally. I think that it's the 18th. I think.
Yes, it's Thursday the 18th. It's technically okay. So for our wonderful listeners, that is literally a day before we generally record our podcast. So
Yeah.
There's a very good chance we would not have had the 4 hours to watch the film because that's the runtime before
Yeah,
recording the podcast. So we will give you
it's
our thoughts on that probably in the week after that.
mm. I appreciate the fact that it's 4 hours though. Because it would have been a miniseries.
You know,
And then they just said
I
no.
I actually preferred the 1 hour split into 4 episodes, to tell you the truth.
Mm,
I just kind of feel, I mean, come on, let's be real. Like, you've seen the memes, right? Where it's like 90-minute video, yeah. 2 hour video, no thanks,
nah.
can't do, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, now we're expected to sit for 4 hours in one single session. Listen, we're living in the digital age where if something doesn't grab me in the first 5 minutes, as awful as that sounds, I'm already out. I'm already done. Moving on to something else. Thank you, TikTok, Instagram Reels, for ruining another generation. So I'm just thinking, I really want to watch this. I do. But there are a few things I think that might work against it from a modern aesthetic. And that is the fact that it's black and white and it's in 4:3 ratio, which means you can have those awful black bars on the left and the right of the screen. So I think it's great that he's sticking to that kind of an artistic vision. But, it be 2021, y'all. If it ain't be 4K blisteringly burning my retinas out, I don't know how interested I really am going to be.
See, that's weird because you it ugly, I no interest is basically
No, not
the
necessarily.
caveman
What I'm
retort.
trying to
Is
say
it?
is that the film was made in the modern era. So trying to
Yeah.
retrofy it doesn't make sense to me. Don't get me wrong, it works, and we will speak about that in just a moment because I finished watching WandaVision and I can't wait to actually speak about it. And there's a lot of what I'm talking about now in Snyder Cut that they've used in WandaVision. But what I'm just trying to get at is, it would have been glorious to see a, a 16 by 9 digitally, not really even remastered, just a proper 16 by 9 cinema quality film that was his vision versus him making it a 4:3. I mean, come on, 4:3 TVs. When last did anybody have a 4:3 TV or screen?
No, as far as I know, it's not. But I could be wrong, obviously.
Well, I
I could
guess
be wrong.
we'll find out on the 18th.
Yeah.
And then we'll report back about whether or not the Snyder Cut was worth the 4 hours or if we lost 4 hours of our lives to the Snyder Cut. I'm hoping that it's going to
I'm
be good. That's what I'm hoping
yeah,
for.
I have high hopes. Yeah.
Yeah, I really hope that it'll be everything that we've all wanted, you know?
Mm.
Now, with things that we all wanted, here's a show no one, not that nobody wanted, but here's a TV show that kind of just came out of the blue and it is absolutely incredible, and that is WandaVision.
Mm.
Now, for those of you who may not know, WandaVision is the latest installment in the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe. It isn't a film, it's actually the first Marvel Studios production for TV. Of course, now we're not including the Netflix deals, the Daredevil and Iron Fist and so on and so forth. We're talking about stuff made exclusively by Disney and Marvel themselves. And I thought it was very good. It's very unusual. It's very different. And the reason for this is because it has to do with Wanda Maximoff and the Vision. Those who are familiar with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you should know these two characters. Specifically from Age of Ultron, that's actually where we were introduced to Wanda with her brother Pietro, basically Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. And all sorts of things happen in that film, basically introducing those characters to us, where Quicksilver actually dies. My conspiracy theory is that the reason why they killed off Quicksilver in that movie after he was introduced in that movie was because we have the X-Men version under Fox. And I don't think Marvel at the time was ready to sort of explain away the differences. Because as we all know, although Marvel is basically all under Disney now, and and Disney now owns Fox, but before then, the rights to X-Men were Fox exclusive. So they could do whatever they wanted with those personalities, and then Quicksilver is one of those mutants. So it's very interesting because I will speak a little bit more about that again in just a moment as we discuss WandaVision. Um, I have to some forward before we begin. There will be a lot of spoilers as we speak about
Yep.
WandaVision at the moment. So if you haven't seen the show, by all means, feel free to skip past this section. Alternatively, feel free to listen on if you have watched the show. It is good and there's a lot of fun stuff. So bef- before I even started watching WandaVision, I was under the assumption from the little bits that I had seen that it had to do with Wanda dealing through her grief of losing Vision. Turns out that
Mm.
initial assumption was correct. Now, I didn't know anything about this. I actually had discussed this with Edward, and he was telling me how it relates to the House of M, which is something I've never heard
Yeah.
of before. So, Ed, if you'd like to give us a little bit more
Um,
information about that.
to be fair, I myself aren't. I don't know much about House of M other than the fact that it's pretty much a comic book crossover, just like I would say the Avengers, I guess. And it's basically how Wanda influences everything because she doesn't like the outcome. And as far as I know, or going into WandaVision, I knew it was all because of Vision's death in was it Infinity War or Endgame? Anyway, it
No,
was
in
the one of
in
the
Endgame. No, hang on. No, Infinity War, because that's when he does the click, and then everybody dies. Because
yes
Wanda disappears. She's one of the few that disappears because, as we've
yes
now
yeah
come to learn, she was actually powerful enough to kill Thanos, which we
yes
now know at the end of WandaVision, the TV show, that just how
of
powerful she
course
actually is.
yeah. So as far as I know, it basically in House of M she has this mental breakdown. I think someone dies. Not Vision. It was someone else. It could be her children, if I remember correctly. From what I've read, and yeah, she has this mental breakdown, and she alters basically all of reality. And I thought WandaVision was based entirely on that. It's somewhat, but also not. So yeah. Um, that's as far as I know from House of M. I haven't read all of them. I only read the first issue, and then after that, I just read up on synopsis. So
Okay, all right, fair
yeah.
enough, fair enough. Well, look, the show, in my opinion, does a wonderful job of exploring Wanda's mental states from having lost vision. Initially, you kind of start watching and you're like, what is actually going on? Because it comes across as a variety of sitcoms from different decades. You know, most notably things like How I Met Your Mother, Malcolm in the Middle, I Love Lucy, The Dick Van Dyke Show. There's a whole lot of sitcoms throughout the eras that WandaVision takes and makes into its own, whereby if you look at the series as a whole, we understand that it is Wanda processing her grief to the point where she didn't know how to deal with the loss of vision in the way that she should have. And she was so overcome with grief that she actually transmogrifies reality with around her within a certain amount of space, which is considered the hex in the show. And it portrays just how powerful she is because what she's actually doing is literally changing reality. So it's not just an illusion.
Yeah.
She's physically transmogrifying things within her hex, which is incredible. And most characters don't have those kinds of abilities. You know, and they allude to it in the show whereby she has the ability to bring back people from the dead. It's not technically true, but she kind of can in certain ways. Like she can't exactly create life, not that I'm aware of, or at least maybe not yet. But she's very close to altering physical, actual traits of reality, which is
Yeah.
incredible. Because I mean, I stand to be corrected, but I think one of the few mutants who's able to do that is actually the son of um, Charles Xavier from Legion.
Yeah, the Legion guy is
Hey, as far as I
is his
understand, like
son.
like he
Yes,
actually has the
yes,
ability to legitimately create realities. I, I,
yeah.
I as far as
But it's
if I can recall, in one, I mean, I don't know too much about X-Men in that, but obviously from the people around me in my life, shout out to Hannah. I know these kinds of things, and I mean, I stand to be corrected, of course, because I'm just speaking from hearsay, not my own knowledge. Is he was so powerful that he actually recreated. Oh, hang on, no, sorry. It was Reed Richards and Sue Richards' son. Sorry, Not Professor Xavier's son. It was the Fantastic Four couple, their son. He was so powerful, he actually created a new reality where his parents were still alive after they had died in his reality.
Mm.
Look, again, if I'm
Okay.
speaking out of turn
Yeah.
or totally confusing this, I'm sorry, but I do know that there is a mutant who is so powerful that he can do that. Anyway, basically, they allude to the fact that Wanda Maximoff is just as powerful. She is more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, who we all know is Doctor Strange. Now,
Yeah.
I've been doing some reading and some watching, and it turns out that Sorcerer Supreme is actually a title bestowed to someone who has mastered the mystical arts. So it's different to Scarlet Witch. So Scarlet Witch is an innate, superpowered witch that is like a witch of legend, all right? And she has this ability, or her powers are so extreme, it's, that she just is. It's kind of like the Phoenix in Jean Grey. But, the title of Sorcerer Supreme is different, if that makes sense. Because a lot of people were like, if
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
so powerful, why isn't she a Sorcerer Supreme? And it turns out that it's because Sorcerer Supreme is not about your power; it's about your title and
Hmm.
how much knowledge you have in terms of the mystical arts. So technically, Wanda could one day become the new Sorcerer Supreme. Anyway,
Technically,
yeah,
but it's
technically,
also
but
just a
but
title.
yeah, it's just a title. So I know we're digressing now. Long story short, is WandaVision is an incredible TV show. It is very, very good. It is well worth watching. Um, as I mentioned before, it's two firsts for Marvel Studios under Disney. First live audience, which I thought was absolutely incredible. Yeah, could you imagine being a part of an actual live audience watching this? And there's actually a new documentary coming, which is all about how they filmed the show, and I'm so keen to watch it. Anyway, again, digressing. Um, and it's technically the first TV show under the MCU, like official canon, not somewhat related like the Netflix shows or how Agents of Shield is no
Or
longer canon,
yeah.
or rather they're saying it's in another multiverse. But again, this is what's so phenomenal about WandaVision, is it's introducing Doctor Strange 2 and what the multiverse of madness or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how we're headed into that realm of characters being alive from other places and coming in and merging and mixing. And I think this is how Marvel's going to introduce X-Men back into the fold.
Oh, for sure. I think it's already confirmed that all that Deadpool 3 will exist within the current
Yes,
MCU universe,
correct,
and
correct.
that'll be incorporating all sorts of Avengers and stuff. So I think the first movie that'll introduce that will be Universe of Madness, and this is the first TV show. So I think it's cool. I
With
like
more
it a lot.
coming, hey? Because there's Falcon and the
Yep.
Winter Soldier debuting next week as well. Same time as the Snyder Cut.
Which I will say I am much more excited for.
Look, it it
Falcon
it
Winter
looks good.
Soldier.
I am interested, but if Disney's
Yeah.
gonna do what they did with WandaVision and they do that week by week thing, I ain't gonna have no previews until it's over.
Yeah. They
Anyway,
probably
I
won't.
mean, I'm trying to rein this back in to keep talking about WandaVision.
Yeah.
Look,
No.
it's a very, very good show. It did a spectacular job of fleshing out Wanda Maximoff as the Scarlet Witch. Because something that I never really realized up until watching WandaVision is that she's never been known as a Scarlet Witch. She was just
Yep.
Wanda Maximoff. And what's great about WandaVision is it now actually gives you the backstory needed to flesh out who this character is. There is a later episode where you actually see why each of the previous WandaVision TV shows within the show. Look, the show is very, very meta in the sense of if you aren't aware about what it's like about, essentially Wanda's grief is portrayed as a TV show that she's broadcasting out into the world. So if you have the
Yeah.
tech to tune in, you can actually watch her processing her grief through a series of sitcoms. It's very meta that way. It's actually really, really, really good, and especially when you see all the little things along the way, the Easter eggs, and how they planted little things here and there. It's very, very, very
Like the
good.
Halloween episode was very good.
Yes, yes. Speaking of
That's
that,
also the episode with the biggest twist.
yes, speaking of that one,
Yeah.
we have to mention that quickly. So they did a fantastic job by casting, and I'm so sorry I don't know his name, but they cast the Quicksilver from Fox's X-Men into the show to replace the Quicksilver that was originally part of the MCU and was portrayed by the kick-ass actor. So
See,
it's just, I don't know. Would you like to add to that? Because I just, it blew my mind a little bit, and I love the fact that they did that.
I think they did that to basically seed the idea that this might be multiverse stuff. Because if they suddenly just go, oh no, the TV show is multiverse, then everyone will be like, oh, this is different. This isn't what we're used to. So I think they're slowly seeding the idea of, okay, stuff might be different. So when I first saw the X-Men, the X-Men Origins equivalent
Yeah.
of Quicksilver, I saw the memes, but I didn't know what the context was until I saw the episode literally yesterday. And yeah,
The thing
I
is,
was
though, Ed,
surprised.
the thing is, there's so much
Yeah.
more to it than that, though. So I've obviously been watching like conspiracy videos and people trying to explain what's going on and stuff like that.
Obviously.
So in the show, he comes across as Pietro, which is, there's an F for Pietro, right? So it's fake Pietro.
No.
Yes?
No, she calls him Pietro.
Trust me, it's Pietro in the long run. Eventually comes out when, anyway, look, you need to finish watching the whole thing.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm 2 episodes out. So
okay, so with Pietro's introduction, also it's easier just to discuss him that way, Pietro versus Pietro, so we can get the distinction between the two.
Fake Pietro.
Fake Pietro, yeah. So with Pietro on the scene, it turns out that he's actually played by somebody else. I think it's called John Boner or something like that. It's a funny name. And this is eventually discovered in one of the later episodes. And then, but like, it's weird because he's even got a casting sheet and like a headshot that's like found in this apartment. And then that leads credence to the fact that Jimmy Woo's lost witness that he's been looking for, which they think was in witness protection, could be him. And then that then boils down to the fact that it could very well be the actual Quicksilver. Because the actual Quicksilver went into witness protection because he knows what's happened in certain events with regards to Ultron and Marvel and so on and so forth. And because of that, he's now was in Westview as John Bomer. I've forgotten the first name, but it was something Boner. And now, his ability, you know what I'm talking about? Like, it all kind of comes together. Although, with that said, they kind of explain his abilities away with Agatha Harkness. Like she gave it to him, and it turns out that, she's actually the big bad. In addition with the idiot from Sword, who has been running the show behind the scenes. I won't say why she's the big bad or what her plans are, but what I will say is that whole mini storyline arc is going to come back to us in Marvel Zombies, because they've already given us a preview.
Marvel Zombies?
Yes, so
there's
that new Netflix, I think, anime, or so not Netflix, but there's that new Marvel animated series coming out later this year. And
oh yeah.
Yes, I've forgotten the name, but they're going to have Marvel Zombies in it. And WandaVision does a great job of showcasing a little bit of what we can expect. Actually, WandaVision touches on a lot, and I actually love the fact that it's this wonderful stopgap between the movies and where the universe is headed, because they actually explain a lot in terms of the snap and what happened when people came back, and things that haven't necessarily been answered in the films, but has actually been answered in WandaVision. Look, overall, just I just want to get it out there. If you enjoy the MCU, WandaVision is worth watching. Yes, it's a little bit unusual, especially the first couple of episodes, but once you get to episode 3's twist, you just want to keep watching. It's very good, in my opinion.
In my opinion, I think the first 3 episodes are its weakest, mainly because I don't like sitcoms at all, and
I
they
love
literally
sitcoms.
just go the sitcom way. And then at the end of the 3rd episode, the big twist happens. Yes. You see, but this is what Wanda is doing. And then suddenly it becomes an actual TV show, not a sitcom anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of both. Actually, it's a bit
of both. The sitcom element is still there,
yeah.
but that's not the show anymore.
Yeah.
And I do from that moment on, I was much more intrigued than the first 3 episodes.
But
So if
that's
you
what I'm
didn't like
saying.
it,
Yeah,
maybe just give
make
it
sure
3.
you
Yeah.
get to at least episode 3 before you call it quits on WandaVision. And
But see,
the thing is, see, WandaVision is one of those shows that has to be taken as a whole. It doesn't make sense to look at just the individual episodes. You know,
yeah. But then
actually,
again,
in many ways, it's only 9 episodes long, and they're each roughly half an hour, right? So that only
yeah,
works out to what, 4 hours, right?
yeah, about
Maybe a bit more.
3.5.
That's as long as like 2 feature movies or one
Or
Snyder
one.
cut.
Yeah. See, that's the thing I was about to say. Like, you're saying give it the first 3 episodes, which
Yeah.
is an hour and a half. But you're also saying you can't be hooked in the first 5 minutes, or you'll leave
No,
it.
it's not. So see,
So
for me, it's different because I love sitcoms. So
yeah, so that's
when
the
I
thing.
started watching WandaVision, the reason why my intrigue remained and why I didn't lose interest is because I know the characters. I know one is the Vision. I know one is Wanda Maximoff. So what's going on? Why are they in a black and white 1920s sitcom? What is going on? So for me, that was enough to keep watching up until, because I wanted to know what was going on. I was curious. And the thing is, the first few episodes are not entirely without scene breaks. All right. And what I mean by that is, yes, they're shot like a sitcom, but there's certain elements in the show that where you can actually watch the screen perspective change, and that's how you know when you're in the real world versus in one of Wanda's illusions. And I don't know, I love it from a cinematography perspective, but also those little scene breaks were enough to like, what is going on? I need to know more. Why is this happening? What's going on? Is there somebody else behind the scenes? Is it just Wanda losing control? Is Vision really dead? You know? These were all the things that within those first 3 or 4 episodes were playing around, and I was like, I need to know, I need to know. And then when the third episode twist comes about, I was hooked. I knew I had to keep watching. Don't get me wrong,
See,
like after the end of the second episode, I was a bit like, is it going to be more of this? Each of these episodes just going to be, another sitcom? Because if this was the case, then I could understand why they release it week by week. Instead of me now binge watching it.
yeah,
With that said, though, I'm a big fan of sitcoms. I've actually been binging season 6 and 7 of Mom. I do. I enjoy them, and not all
that's
sitcoms,
fair.
but like I think that's why it was okay for me. It's
Maybe.
anyway.
It's fine. You literally don't have to justify yourself. It's
No, I
you're
don't.
watching a show you like. So, to each their own. Personally, I just think it starts a bit weak. That's all.
Look, I've actually seen a lot
I'm
of people diss it because of the first 3 episodes, and I'm like,
yeah,
I do understand that. I get that because I have in the past many times said if I'm not hooked by the third or fourth episode, I stop watching. And
well,
in fairness, that has often proved to be a good point. Especially when the season's only like 10 episodes. So if I've given it half, I mean, if I'm not invested by the halfway point, why should I keep going?
exactly. And
Ah,
you're entitled to
but
your own time.
I did that with the original season of Game of Thrones. You know that, right? I got to episode 2 and I stopped watching, and then I think it was almost a year later. I was like, no, let's give it another chance. No, and I'm still filled with regret because of the final season. So never mind. Let's forget that I even brought that
I
up.
did the same with Breaking Bad, though. I
Oh,
watched two
I
episodes
still
and
haven't
I
finished it.
hated it. It's one of my most cherished shows ever. I watch it yearly. I love it.
Uh,
It's a dear show to me.
you rewatching stuff is something I'd love to discuss at another point in time because I don't do that.
Why? Oh, I love it.
No, for me, like, time is valuable, and
Time
I
is
mean,
money.
no, not time is money. Time is valuable. Now, there's a much bigger debate to be had around that. Like, what you do with your time is your time. So who cares what anybody thinks or what even you think? You can do whatever you want with your time. I just feel though that revisiting older shows and TV shows and watching them again and again is a bit of a waste because you already have done it and you know it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't ever rewatch things. I mean, goodness knows I've watched Jurassic Park more times than I care to count. Um, as an example, right?
Yeah.
And and I have in the past rewatched all the Star Wars to movies, the original prequels, the original trilogy, to make way for the new ones that were coming. Would I do it
Yeah.
again? No, but I did it. So,
Okay.
I'm
Okay, that's fair.
that's just me. That's just me. Anyway, okay, anyway, before we completely get sidetracked some more, this was actually something I accidentally cut from last week's episode, and that is Edward recently reviewed a Logitech peripheral for racing enthusiasts.
Yes. The Logitech G923. It's not a Pro. It's not an X. It's not a Lightspeed or whatever. It's just a 923. Thank the makers, I guess, for once.
It's still a confusing naming scheme, okay?
Yeah, it remains confusing. Anyway, it's a racing wheel. I think it's better suited to enthusiasts more than anyone else.
Of
Mainly
which Edward is.
because yes, I am, but I'd also say I'm not that much of an enthusiast that I'll build myself a rig just to put the wheel on, because one of my biggest qualms with the wheel was the fact that it's clamps, so for reference, if you get the wheel, you put it on your table, you have to clamp it down. The clamps only go about 4 centimeters big, so it can fit onto a desk. It doesn't fit onto the average coffee table, though, which is usually 3 to 5 centimeters thick if it's a wooden table. So
Okay.
using it in the living room was a hassle.
Of course, because
anyway,
you would have attached it to the coffee table that was already there.
Exactly.
And then in my scenario, I wouldn't be able to attach it to anything because
yeah. Beyond that, though, it's not that big of an issue to lug around. It's about MacBook size, I would say. It's about the size of this MacBook, look, which is an old
In fairness, you wouldn't really lug it around, right? It's the kind of thing that you would set up and leave, correct? Because my understanding is it's the wheel, it's like a base that clamps to the wheel, it has pedals, right? That kind of thing.
It's got the clamps to be on whatever table you're using, or be on your racing rig if you're an enthusiast. And then also it comes with pedals included in the box, but it doesn't come with a shifter, which I find so weird. But I think that's just, most people will just use the shifters on the wheel or just drive automatically.
Okay, but it's got gear shifts on the wheel then.
Mm-hmm,
but that's all right. That's all right. Most high-end sports vehicles have like that. So I mean, my car is not exactly new. It's actually it's like 8 years old now, and mine has pedal shift. So it makes more sense, I think.
I guess
it's also less components, because I would imagine that something like first of all, most people in the world don't know how to use a gear shift. Let's be real for a second there. All right, most people don't know how to do manual, so you have to make a product that's as easy as possible for people to use. And I assume, pedal shift is probably the way to go.
Yeah, probably. So that's just a nitpick anyway. It comes with the full plethora of pedals though. And that's huge. It's sizable. If I put my feet down, I would say it's about 40 centimeters in width, and it comes out as far as well. It's heavy.
It's quite a big thing.
It doesn't move around if it's on the floor at all.
Okay, and in your opinion, I know you've said it's more, I suppose, attuned to people who are more serious about playing racing games.
Yeah.
Is it worth it though? Like what I mean by that is, did it at all improve or change the way that you raced, like your skill, for example, versus using a controller?
See, I don't know if it improved my skill at all. I didn't have it for long enough to get used to it properly.
Mm-hmm.
But I had it long enough to know that I don't want to play racing games with the controller anymore, with the analog sticks.
That's awesome. Okay.
Because playing it with the wheel was an experience in itself, and I loved it.
That's also because the wheel has force feedback, right? So you can actually feel the gravel, specifically in games that support it, correct? Like the way that it shifts and shakes.
So the wheel has the usual force feedback, which is basically if you bump something, your steering wheel in real life will move according to how your wheels are pushing it to move because it's linked.
Yeah.
It'll do the same with the G923, except this one also comes with something called True Force, which is an even higher state of this. So yeah, you'll actually feel the gravel. You'll feel if your wheels go up and down, you'll have little bumps in the wheel to basically
That's awesome.
to basically get this through to you, which is super nice.
That's very cool.
Another issue with that is that the True Force, it's not supported in many games yet. The force feedback is there, but not the new feature. Yeah, so
okay.
Obviously, steering wheels are devices that you use for tens of years. It's not
for long periods of time. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so
that's interesting. I mean, I'm not much of a. I mean, I enjoy the odd car game, with Forza Horizon 4 being top of my mind right now. But it's not. I wouldn't personally feel the need to buy something like this. But I could get it. I mean, I have bought the Elite controller for the Xbox Series X because I love the extra buttons and things. So I would imagine that if I was more into car games, I might invest in something like this. You know, kind of like how in the past where I had like, Guitar Hero and the drum one, you'd have to have those peripherals and it was always fun using them. But man, was it a chore to put away.
I can imagine. Yeah, because obviously it's just a lot.
All right. Well,
yeah.
that's so your overall verdict?
It's good.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's exceptional just because it's not for everyone.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, I know that it's not necessarily entry level, but it is also very niche. And I know that if you are very much into this market where you want to have the simulator experience, there are other products that are more realistic. So this is more of a general commercial version of the kind of setup that somebody with a lot of dosh would invest into. That's my understanding.
Yeah. To be fair, the G923 is literally the same wheel they use in these bigger setups.
Oh.
But you are referencing the big rig with the multiple screens and all the
This
the
is kind of
whistles.
like a nice stopgap, I would imagine. If you're interested in that kind of thing, this is a good stepping stone.
Yes.
How much does it cost, by the way?
I think it goes for about 4,000, if I remember correctly.
Now, we alluded to some coffee in a previous episode. So today we're going to finally speak to you about the Terbodore coffee that we've ordered, specifically the coffee capsules versus the beans that you can also buy and grind. I purchased a variety of colors for myself and Edward to test and enjoy. And they were okay. I thought I thought maybe I'd go like in depth and speak about them and everything. But look, there are a few flavors, right? There's 6 that I'm aware of. So there's a purple, which is like a normal Arabica. There's a vanilla. There's a English toffee, a Dutch chocolate, a Italian hazelnut, and then one called the Great Dane, which is meant to be their signature flavor.
Yeah.
Now, the Terbodore coffee it's okay. It's got a very nutty base overall. So regardless of which one you're tasting or which one you choose to drink, there is a nutty aftertaste. And for the most part, that works quite nicely. I will admit that my favorite flavoring was the Italian hazelnut. And I think that's because it complements the already nutty base. Versus the others like the vanilla, Dutch chocolate, or English toffee, which are trying to add additional flavorings to what is already a nutty undertone. Now, it works fair enough. So, like for vanilla, it's decent. It's a decent vanilla flavoring over the nutty base. For the English toffee, again, it smells incredible. Like it actually smelled like toffee. And it did have a very sort of caramel-like texture when drinking, but not enough to make me be like, oh yeah, this is English toffee, if that makes sense. It was just kind of like a nice sort of subtle, feel. The Dutch chocolate was very similar, although I found it to be quite bitter. I assume maybe some cacao was put into the mix, or well, actually they say it's all natural and that it's flavoring, so I'm not really sure. And then the Great Dane, and I've got written here as purple because I've forgotten what it is. I think it was just Arabica. right? I can't actually
Yeah, I
remember.
did as well because of the pods ran out before
Yeah.
I could see the name.
They were decent, but I found the Great Dane, which was their signature flavor, to have a very odd aftertaste. Actually, if I must be honest, they all have a really weird aftertaste.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not sure if this is because these are capsules versus if you actually had to buy the beans and grind them. But I'm going to assume that there's no difference. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because I have had flavored coffee in the past before I moved to Nespresso. And there is always a very unique taste to these coffee beans that have this flavor. And that's because, to my understanding, is that they use an oil to coat the beans to give it a flavor and not necessarily a taste, but it's natural flavorings.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
in the past, I've had certain brands actually give me allergic reactions because of the oils that they're using. Thankfully, I didn't have that with Terbodore, but it did have that weird synthetic taste. And I have to mention it because when I drink Nespresso capsules and they bring out their unique flavors, there is no weird aftertaste with an espresso product. I don't know how to explain it. The easiest way for me to say it is that every time I drink a flavored coffee from another brand, and Turbodore is just one example, there is always that weird bitterness at the back. Now, coffee is meant to be bitter, but that's not the bitterness I'm talking about. This is like an actual bitterness, which just sits there, and it's always at the end of your sip, and you're like, ugh, what is that? It's not the nicest taste, at least for me.
See,
All right.
see, personally, I don't mind the taste of the Turbodore or the aftertaste rather. What I didn't like was the flavor itself. But in terms of aftertaste, to me, this was the best flavored coffee I've had in a long while. As you said, you used to have the beans.
Yes.
I also used to have the crushed beans flavored. I especially like the Irish flavored coffee beans, which is literally just oil. Now, I think this isn't oil. I think that's because it's bitter. I think this is actual flavorant.
You might be right. Yeah. Might be right.
Powdered flavorant is what I mean.
Mm.
And I think that's where the bitterness comes from. And I think mixing that with the nutty base that they already have makes it bitter because nut is
You
a
may
grounded
be
flavor.
you may be right. Now, of course, Edward and I are
Yeah.
spitballing. We don't know for sure.
Yeah, of
We haven't
course.
reached out to them to ask them exactly what they mean by their natural flavoring. But
Yeah.
essentially, I think that the takeaway from this is that these capsules are average. They
Mhm.
I anticipated a lot more from them. I was hoping they were going to be really, really, really great. But unfortunately, and this is like the honest truth, there are very few other capsule makers that can compete with Nespresso's original offerings. And what is surprising is they're often all similarly priced. I mean, you're talking about maybe R1 on a capsule, so you might as well get the Nespresso. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, as I mentioned before, with Nespresso flavorings, I don't know, they just feel very like truly natural. They never overpower the drink and they're very subtle. And I think that's why some people can't really tell the difference when they drink the Nespresso ones. But for me, I can,
Mm.
and not necessarily from a taste perspective, although it is there, but it's definitely an aroma and like a flavoring. Anyway,
Mm. Mm.
um, so with coffee on the mind, when do you normally drink your coffee?
Um, 3 times a day, morning, afternoon
Well,
ish,
I
not
see you
always,
drinking
and
right
then at
now,
night.
right? As
Yes.
we're recording this episode.
Yeah.
I also drink whenever I don't want to say need because I don't feel I'm not like addicted to caffeine or anything like that. Like legitimately, I can just not have if I don't feel like it. But I like the
That
taste.
that's what addicts say. Just saying.
anyway,
Just
anyway,
saying.
um, have you ever just like sat down with a mug and just let yourself wander, let your mind wander
Oh,
while drinking
that's
it?
dangerous. That's a dangerous thing to do. So
Why? Why do you say that?
because thoughts. I'm a
Ah.
millennial after all.
Oh goodness. Actually, yeah. With that on the mind, just quickly before I launch into the topic I actually want to discuss, but I came across this really interesting fact that I tweeted, and it has to do with how you can kill yourself by drinking coffee. And it turns out that if you consume more than 80 to 100 cups of coffee, you can die. Right?
Yeah.
So that's 100 times what 250 mils. So that's
Yeah,
25
that's
liters.
so that's 20,000 mil,
Yeah,
which is about
it's
what,
about
20
20 to
liters.
25 liters. So
There we go, boys. We know the threshold now. Just
to
just
to how to end your
literally
life with
a pool.
Kofefe. All right. Anyway, so what I was
Yeah.
alluding to just now, and why I asked if you think about things when you're drinking coffee, is because I'd like to speak about daydreaming for a little bit. Actually, out of curiosity, do you daydream, Edward?
No,
At
I
all?
can't say I do. No, and I've never found myself daydreaming.
In the past?
As I said, never.
Oh,
Um, or rather, let me put it this way: I wouldn't know what that entails.
okay. So I think you have, and maybe you're just not aware that you have. And I
Maybe,
say this
maybe.
because you are an aspiring author. So you obviously
Hmm.
have worlds that you've created in your mind. And I would like to assume that when you think about these worlds, they play out.
Oh yes.
Well,
Oh,
that's
okay.
considered daydreaming.
Okay, then often then. Honestly, my idea of daydreaming is something everything you see in the movies, essentially.
Meaning?
Uh, Meaning all this OTT crap. Like if you're
No,
daydreaming,
daydreaming is
like you know,
like for example, let's say I'm sitting here, and for those of you who are listening, in my new location, I'm literally staring out towards the ocean. And sometimes you can just stare out and just look at it and think of where my life is going, where it could be, and then maybe that will merge into something fanciful, like me riding a dragon. Or anyway, look, I'm just saying
yeah, I get
that's
that.
technically
Yeah,
daydreaming. All right,
yeah,
and now a lot of the times people do this when you're a lot younger, when you have less responsibility on your mind, that kind of thing, because there's less real world worries. Then again, at the same
yeah,
time, people who suffer from attention deficit disorder are more likely to daydream on average than the normal person, and that's because their mind is constantly in flux and you're constantly thinking about other things, and so a means of coping through all of that is to daydream. All right,
yeah.
it's the reason why I'm bringing all of this up is because there's actually been some really incredible new research into daydreaming and how beneficial daydreaming actually is to us as humans. Basically, what the researchers have found is that it's a very underdeveloped part of our cognitive toolkit because through their research, and as always, we will link below because obviously we're giving you very much the crib notes version. They found that daydreaming actually has a lot of cognitive benefits to the point of where it can actually help reduce pain, which I thought was very, very, very interesting. How
That's
exactly is still a little bit up for debate, but the
mhm.
fact that you can boost your pain tolerance and your wellness through daydreaming, and I maybe assume, or from the little bit that I have read, it might have to do with because you're using your mind for something creative and therefore something pleasurable. So that's why, immediately I'm thinking, it's because you're being tortured. And so you need to daydream to get out of the situation.
Yeah, that's immediately where my head went as well. Like, just escape.
Now, what's interesting about daydreaming and what the researchers also found is that it's actually very cognitively taxing. And initially, you wouldn't think so. But it turns out the reason why is because you are essentially, to really summarize what they're saying here, you are creating your own universe in your mind with its own actors, its own scripts, its own, the direction, the cinematography. You're doing it all in your mind's eye. And so they want to do more research into it because they really want people to understand, or rather, they want to understand more the benefits of it and why we should all do it. So with that in mind, they actually gave 4 tips for how to daydream.
Okay.
And I'll just go through them quickly. So the first one is you need to trust that it's possible to have a good experience. And you need to prime your brain with topics that you find interesting. Now, the reason why this one is so important is because through the studies, because there was actually throughout the studies that they had two, study A, study B, and they conducted different things, and they found that when they forced people to think about something that they necessarily weren't interested in, they had a negative experience because they couldn't intuitively attribute something positive to what they were forced to think about. And one of the conclusions then came out of the fact that humans don't intuitively think positively about things. Hence how coffee kills you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and so what they're saying is that, you've got to prime your mind by thinking positive things so that when you get into that daydream, it's a positive experience. And because it's a positive experience, you end up feeling better. You feel lighter. Maybe it was refreshing.
That's
Now, they
cool.
also admit that it's a very challenging thing to do. So unless you're maybe a child with a very bright and active imagination, you aren't weighed down by the realities of the world, which we all know are too real. Um,
A bit.
practice makes perfect, basically. Um,
That's
and
cool.
now this was another important one. They said, don't confuse planning things with thinking for pleasure. So this is where, for example, let's say you're thinking about going on a trip. So you're thinking about all the things you need to do for the trip to prepare for it. That's not daydreaming. That's just planning, because you're planning a real world scenario, which could therefore also be quite stressful. You know, Nobody
Mm.
necessarily daydreams packing their car and how they're going to get to a destination, and then will they have, the pills for malaria? You know what I'm talking about? What might happen is packing the things for the car, and then the car takes off and the wheels become thrusters, and you meet alien life. You get what I'm saying, the difference between the two.
Yeah.
And then the last point is essentially to choose the right time to try. Because if you're really busy, like this for Gettle this morning, right? So I was prepping for Gettle this morning. So obviously it would have been a bad time for me to try and daydream this morning. But maybe after this, if I have another cup of coffee and I go and lay on the beach, who knows?
Just sit and stare and imagine the magical floating islands above the sea as you look at them. See, that's
Oh.
daydreaming.
Basically hallucinate, right? Is that what you're
Essentially,
good.
get some
Now.
LSD going.
Oh, yes. Now, with hallucinations on the mind, most of us know of something called the motion after effect. Now, anyone who's played a video game like Rock Band or Guitar Hero, or even has just stared at a waterfall or even the ocean for an extended period of time, whereby there is a particular motion moving in one direction, will know that if you look away at something stationary, your mind will
That'll
perceive that
move.
the stationary thing is moving. All right. So
Yeah.
this is called motion after effect. And I came across the most incredible video which does this to you, like extremely. And when you look away, everything ebbs and flows. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this particular illusion, or that this video, gives people the impression of if they're on LSD or mushrooms. And as somebody who's never taken either, I was like, okay, cool. Let's see what it is to
Curious.
trip on these things. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I watched it, and it's fascinating. I can't say I would enjoy it. I mean, I'm already somebody who, I've never really been drunk before, like proper drunk, like vomiting and etc. etc. Because I don't like that loss of control. It's never something I've ever enjoyed, and it's why I don't. I guess I don't do drugs. I suppose. There we
Yeah.
go. There we go, kids.
You
No,
lose
it's just
control.
I don't like the loss of control. Like I've had marijuana before, and of course I've obviously had alcohol, and you know that weird like loss of your faculties. I don't enjoy it. I just don't like it, which is why I've steered cleared from things like that. Not because I don't, if you want to do it, more power to you, but it's not for me. That's how I know my own body. I know my limits. I know what I like and what I don't like. You know. So yeah. Anyway, so I did this, and it's weird, and I can't say that I would want to take LSD because of it. is what I'm getting at.
Okay. Okay. But at least you're not losing control, so it adds that factor back.
Well,
It gives
well,
you that back.
well, not necessarily, because yeah, I suppose it's more of a visual illusion. So I still have all of my faculties in place with the exception of sight, to a degree. But look, either way, if you're curious about it, we will link the video. Go have a look at it. It's eye-opening, for lack of a better term. Literally.
Oh, gosh.
Literally.
Gosh, dang. That pun though.
Oh, okay. What?
Okay.
Now, what is also super eye-opening, and this is thanks to Edward. Edward found this incredible video about the Pokemon family tree, but mostly to do with legendaries. Edward, you blew my mind. Somebody who
about
has
Pokemon.
been a Pokemon fan for like 20 years, right? This was just...
The thing is, when I go off in the YouTube rabbit hole, because I'm always on YouTube, as y'all know, I sometimes find weird stuff, and sometimes I get recommended stuff based on what you watch, because I'm subscribed to you and you're subscribed to me, and we're all friends.
Does it actually do that? Does it actually really do that?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know, because I never watch anything Pokemon.
Quickly goes and hides YouTube history.
My history is already hidden just because of that. So, yeah, I found this cool video which basically goes through the creation process and the family tree of the Pokemon and how they ended up being the Pokemon that they are. So if essentially we spoke last week about Arceus.
Yes, thank you. It is Arceus, by the way. Edward it was totally spot on. Totally.
It's a Romanized name, so that's I guess just how I knew. Anyway,
but hold on. Okay. Now, I'm so glad you brought Arceus up, and I'm so glad that we have the right way of saying it, because
why?
Your video, if 100% legit, blew my mind, because apparently all of life in the Pokemon universe comes from a single golden egg.
Yeah, this mysterious ass egg we don't know anything about. Yeah.
So
apparently,
if you go and watch this video, right, it starts off with the egg. That's it. It's just the egg, and it's gold. It's a golden egg. Now, anyone who's familiar with the Pokemon universe knows Pokemon come from eggs. And if you've played Pokemon Go, you know you have to walk for them to open. It's the same things in the games. The more you walk, the more the eggs eventually hatch. So I guess it makes sense that they would come from an egg, but like the reason why it's so like is because it's the single golden egg that produced Arceus. But who created the golden egg?
See, that's the question.
Where?
That's the existential thing we don't know yet.
Oh wait, what came first, the Pokemon or the egg?
Oh boy.
Well, no. We now know the egg.
Yeah. It was nothingness, and then it was an egg. Then it was the universe.
No.
It was the Earth.
It was the egg, and then it was Arceus. So this video it really has opened my mind to the Pokemon universe, because as a Pokemon fan, you know about all the Pokemon, and often I've wondered how the fung do all of these Pokemon actually relate to each other. And this video just does such a superb job of putting all the pieces together. So, like, for example, Arceus to me is a fairly new Pokemon, all right? Despite the fact that I think it's been available since the Sinnoh region. I mean, I stand to be corrected, but I feel it was only really revealed like much later on in like the series as things go forward. And the fact is, Arceus is the one. So it goes egg, and then from the egg hatched Arceus. And then from Arceus comes things like Mew. And from Mew is every Pokemon in existence except for the legendary Pokemon.
Some of the legendaries.
Hey? No,
so
all of them.
That's the thing.
All of them. None of them are related to Mew.
But see,
except for Mewtwo, but you see,
that's human meddling.
But that's human meddling. So technically, according to the chart on this YouTube video, Mewtwo comes from man, which makes sense.
Yes, yeah, but also I see you put in the notes that it's missing some legendaries. Now
it is.
I think as a non professional enthusiast like you. I think the reason it's missing some legendaries is because not all legendaries are truly legendary in the sense that they came first. I
Yes,
think
yes.
they are in the same category as the little Pikachu category, which is all Pokemon. Under
Oh, I
the
see. Look. I know that, like, for example, Deoxys, right, comes
yeah
from DNA, and so that would then, I would imagine, come from humans, kind of like Mewtwo,
yeah, I would
you know,
imagine
or
that. Yeah,
something to that effect. I know that there's another viral Pokemon as well, which comes from like a virus. So I would assume that Edward is correct in saying that pretty much the legendaries that are not included in this Arceus list are probably then from Mew, because there's
yeah,
some derivative, something evolved or mutated, and then we have some of those extra Pokemon. But honestly,
but
yes.
we must also note that this family tree is pre Sword and Shield.
So it all has to do with Arceus, which I said before, I think debuted with the Sinnoh region, which has got to do with Pearl and Diamond, Pokemon Pearl and Diamond.
Yes,
So Arceus has been around for a while. So for Zacian and Zamazenta, we're still not entirely sure where they fit in, but I would imagine that it's from Arceus. And the reason for this is because, as always, we will link to the video, so definitely go and watch it. But having a look at the image, right, there were so many like mind-boggling things. Like, I didn't realize that, for example, from Arceus comes Dialga, Palkin, and Giratina. And now, of course, each of
hmm?
these means something different. So, like, Pialka has to do with like space and time. I think space. Dialga is time or something like that. So
And
so
yeah,
Zacian and Zamazenta must mean something as well in the grand scheme of things to create the universe. And if not,
maybe
and if not the universe, then something else perhaps to do with Earth. Because get this, and I didn't know this, but Pokemon like Kyogre, Rayquaza, and Groudon are specifically Earth legendaries. So,
yes.
so you know, it's just, I don't know. I'm sorry, it's incredible. I geeked out so much when I saw this. Like, it's so nice to see how, you know, the original birds. You know, I'm talking about like Moltres, Zapdos, Articuno, and how they fit in, and where Lugia fits in, and you know, what about Ho-Oh? It's just really amazing, and I implore anyone who's a Pokemon fan to go and check out this video because I think you're gonna love it. I
Yeah, it's a
really
cool
do.
video.
And now,
Yeah.
speaking of Pokemons and the fact that they're animals, and where do them Pokemons come from?
From the
NSFW.
Big Bang. Oh, okay. The Big Bang anyway. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. The big Pokemon Bang.
Bang.
Look, before we get into your topic here, which is I see Edward's labeled it as weird animal sex. I just
Hmm?
have to quickly talk about how like how awful it is to devein a lobster.
What's a
Okay,
devein?
okay. So for those of you who eat lobsters and prawns and things, you know, or you should know, that you have to devein them before you eat them, otherwise you can get violently ill. Now, deveining is a bit of a weird term because essentially what you're pulling out is not necessarily a vein, but it's actually their intestines, so it's filled with poop. All right. So that's
Oh
actually
yeah, 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 yeah.
what you're taking out, so you don't get sick.
Yeah, look.
So just this week, we had some crayfish delivered because there's a local person that catches them, and they came over. It was wonderful. We had about 8 massive tails. It was delicious. The thing is, they were fresh tails, obviously. So, or rather, the whole crayfish, and you break it apart and so on and so forth. They were already dead. So how they died, I'm not sure. Anyway, so how do you devein them? Is the whole thing. So generally, when it comes to like a prawn, you cut it open and you can pull it out, right? Now, the crayfish, it's a much harder shell, so it's a bit more difficult. So I did some Googling and I came across a fascinating video whereby you basically you give the crayfish some really bad anal and that's how you pull it out.
You literally just go like
No,
this.
no, no. What you do is you take one of its, I don't know what you'd call them, feelers. Okay, you snap it
Yeah.
off and you literally shove it into the ass and you twist and then you pull it out.
Oh boy.
I know.
The images I just got in
no,
my head.
anyway, let me tell you, I don't consider myself to be a squeamish person, okay? But because I
But
knew that was the ass of the crayfish, the fact that I had to stick my fingers in there and like shove that thing in and twist it and pull it out, oh, I wanted to gag just once or twice,
that's
but eventually
weird.
I got used to it. So essentially, what it does is you can get something called a deveining tool, which does this automatically, okay? But essentially, what you're doing with this thing is you're destroying the anal cavity in order to pull out the vein.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, sorry. I just one of those few things. I just had to throw it in here.
I'm just having weird ass mental images now.
I'm gonna leave the video so you can go and check it out because it's very interesting and I learned from it. So I now know how to devein crayfish and not gag in the process.
And also not die in the process, I guess.
Yes.
So
Thank
there's
you.
that.
Right. So Ed, tell me you've come across some cool animal sex facts.
Yeah, weird animal sex facts. So it's nothing new, but I came across this.
Are
this
they weird
website.
though, or is it just weird to humans?
Well, which means they're weird. Okay, they're not normal. So we've spoken about these. We've briefly mentioned rats that go on sex sprees in the past. I specifically think it was the 21st episode, our official 21st episode, our coming of age episode, if you will. And we mentioned that there are rodents that go on sex sprees. Now it turns out that these rodents do exist. It's not just a myth or a factoid that someone threw up.
Every time we think rodent, all I can think about is Richard Gere.
Well,
for those of you who missed it, basically there is a rumor that Richard Gere likes to put gerbils in his asshole.
It's probably a false rumor.
It probably is, but that's it. Every time you put rodents and like sex together, I'm like, did somebody get Richard Gere? Because
gosh dang. Well, maybe it was one of these. Okay, no, it was a gerbil, but
okay.
So the rodents I'm referencing today is called the Antichinus. I am not sure. And they are tree-dwelling rodents, pretty much like flying squirrels almost.
Okay.
But they're actual rats.
Oh, they don't fly though, right?
No, they don't.
Oh,
it's a little rat type thingy. It's not entirely a rat, but it looks like a mixture between the flying squirrel and a rat, I'd say. Anyway, they live in trees, and they go their entire lives without having sex.
So
until
how do
they
do.
Okay, so scientists call
they're
this
celibate until they're not.
Semelparity. Yes, that they aren't we all? They call it semelparity, which is basically they go their entire lives until they stop producing semen, and then the moment they stop producing semen, they just go around and pump everything they see until they die. They literally die while having sex. They have so much sex, they die.
Listen, that's not a bad way to go. And I know we said coffee was a good way to go, but somehow this seems like a much better way to go.
It sounds like a good way to go until you know that they have so much sex, their insides start imploding and they start losing hair and they start going gangrenous. Because they...
Ooh, goodness.
But hang on. That's all they do.
Wasn't there another animal that we not spiders now, that also did something similar? Wasn't it like they make like aggressive love until they die? I've forgotten now. Somewhere in season 1.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was.
Anyway,
it could
so
be one of
it's a testosterone-fueled mating frenzy. I see here that you have it.
Literally, and it can go on for entire days. A single mating session, just on and on and on until it just falls over flat.
But now, okay, hold on. So they're celibate, but produce semen the whole time.
Yes.
And then when the body's like, sorry for you, bitch, we're gonna stop now, then they make an effort to reproduce.
Yeah, then they're like, okay, gosh, it's go time.
I'm curious, how do they know when that stops?
I don't know.
And also, what about the rest of the semen? Or like, I mean, if it's been being produced all along,
yeah,
what, just Nothing.
My guess is that it stored somewhere, which means the semen is some kind of strong mutant semen or something that just doesn't die.
Look, I know that with
Um,
with us, for example, I think it's
Yeah.
within 24 to 48 hours it gets fully replenished. After well, actually, it's
Yes.
less than that. I think it's 24 hours.
Essentially, it's much less, but it's around
Yes,
there. Yeah.
but and then the thing is, even if you don't expel, the body just absorbs, and then there's a new fresh batch.
Yeah. It just keeps going. Yeah.
Okay, so
So mu-
see, I'm bringing it up because that's interesting. You know, it's
It
such a
is super
strange
interesting.
physiological, you know, fact of this creature that
Yeah.
is actually fertile all of its life until it's not. And only when it's not is
And
it like, you know what this sounds like? This sounds like procrastination to the extreme.
like, whoa, I'm good, and then it just dies.
No, it's like, no, I've got until next week. No, I've got until next week. And then eventually next week comes and you're like, so I don't actually have any more. So let me just do this.
Let's now the party starts, baby. Yeah, pretty much like bucket list time.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's weird, but that's a fact I found.
Okay.
I did think about googling more about it, but I went off another tangent I'm going to mention later. So in the same list, I found another cool thing about bees. Now we all know about the bee mating process, which is basically just drones keep going at the queen whenever she feels like it.
It's good to be queen.
Actually, isn't it always? Well,
no, not if you're Queen Elizabeth right now.
yeah.
Okay, well,
And
we will not talk about that just right now.
Megan bitch.
Carry
on. That immediately dampened the mood because, gosh dang. Listen, the monarchy is in trouble, okay? And I am not having any of it.
For those of you
Gosh.
who are listening and watching, as you can tell, Edward is triggered right now because he loves the monarchy. And personally, I really dig the monarchy as well. And I don't want to get into any debates surrounding it because I just think the monarchy is cool.
My point stands that basically being a queen should be great because everyone follows you around. In this weird ass obsession almost. Now with bees, it's pretty much the same thing. We all know that the bee colony is essentially just drones looking after the queen, and they do everything. They feed her, they do everything for her, and they mate with her. Now, personally, I always thought that the queen bees basically chose the drone, or she just had one mount her and they went at it. Turns out that's not the case. It turns out that bees are, at least the drones, are so obsessed with the queen, they'll just do anything for her. They are almost slave-like in that they want to mate with her.
But isn't that the whole point? I mean, isn't that the whole thing? That a drone is literally that, a drone?
Yeah, I guess so. I just thought they were more, I don't know, more sentient than that, I guess. So they want to mate with her so badly that they feed her, they look after her, they do everything for her. And the person who wrote the post, that they liken it to an assembly line almost, because when the colony needs to move, the queen is the first one ahead with all the soldier bees obviously in front, and then all the drone bees, they're just in a line following her. Now, I just found that very, very fascinating because, as we all know as well, when a bee does mount her and finishes and does his thing, it just falls dead. It just dies. Because
I didn't know that.
Yeah, as it turns out, their penises explode and they just end their life just there after sex.
I actually didn't know that. So the queen gets her full and then just gets new ones. She just always fresh meat.
Pretty much. Now there are two more things I want to mention from this list. We'll obviously link to the full list below.
Yes.
One that will intrigue you a lot, Hans, which is the fact that basically sharks, okay? We all know the big bad of the sea.
No, that's Cthulhu.
Yes, that's Cthulhu, not Cthulhu. We all know that. Well, we don't know. I never knew this. Sharks can reproduce on their own, just like get this, Godzilla and a Komodo dragon and whatever else.
And chickens, like chickens. Is it because they can change their sex?
It's not. It's only been observed in females, so I don't think that is because they can change their sex.
Hold on, is it because they keep some of the semen?
No, in scenarios where no male was ever introduced, a female would still reproduce. And it was mostly observed with hammerheads in scenarios where the hammerhead knew that she would never be with another male, because these are matings. This is a mating species. They don't usually go without couples and mating.
That is
the entire process.
Very interesting. I didn't know that they could do that. Wow.
Yeah. So it's been observed that female hammerheads, especially, they can get a baby without a male ever entering the picture.
You also mentioned Komodo dragons, turkeys, and I've mentioned chickens. But chickens is different. Chicken is where if there's no male, one of the hens becomes a rooster. I know that they can change that way.
I actually never knew that.
So I'm wondering,
yeah,
what about dinosaurs?
That's what I'm
getting
at.
What if they were also unisex?
Maybe, because they were basically just chickens, giant ass chickens and reptilians.
That is why they could breed in Jurassic Park. Oh yeah, it's all coming together now.
I knew you were gonna like that point. And then the final point, and which I find the most intriguing, because I think there is, well, I don't think, I know that there is an episode of X-Files, in one of the very first episodes, which is all about this worm which enters your body and it makes you aggressive.
Oh,
anything
to do with worms and things, it freaks me out. So what is
well, there's another. It's
no.
a worm called the bedeloid rotifer. Rotifer. I'm going to say this super Afrikaans because I can't say it otherwise. Which is a leech-like, microscopic leech-like wormy thing. The picture of it looks very.
I think it's Deloid
invasive.
Rotifer.
Yeah, I think the B is silent.
Okay, so what does it do?
So this is a thing that it's essentially everywhere. It's a microscopic worm that's in all kinds of puddles and wet freshwater bodies. So literally the dam I'm just looking at now, it's full of these things and you wouldn't even know. But these don't mate at all. Scientists have observed them and they've never seen them mate. So they're basically asexual and they just multiply.
Now, hang on. I'm curious about that. I don't know if you'd be able to answer this, but if something reproduces asexually, is it creating a genetic carbon copy, or is it actually genetically different?
See, I think it's genetically different, because if it was a carbon copy, it would have been basically a cell. And I think the reason they don't call this a cell or something to that effect is because it's actually. It moves, it does its own thing.
Fair enough.
And then it reproduces. So I'm not sure, honestly.
Okay.
But essentially, they are also capable of withstanding extreme amounts of radiation. Which means, and some biologists have hypothesized, because obviously it's not theorized.
They're from out of this world?
They could be, but they could also just hitchhike on our spaceships one day and colonize and become parts of other colonies on other planets. Wow. Which reminds me a lot about a certain junk monster from Star Wars. I don't know the name, but Luke and Leia and Han.
You're talking about Jabba the Hutt?
We're all no, not Jabba the Hutt. The junk monster. At
that big thing, that like sandworm thing.
Not the Sarlacc pits, but also that's basically the same. But yeah, it reminds me a lot of that. And knowing my Star Wars lore, I used to collect the books. It reminded me a lot of that. After the rodent and stuff, it got me thinking, and it about sex and how often people die after sex.
Yes. Now this is asking the real questions, because we've gone from animals that I still can't believe insides implode. For you spoke about 2 animals where the insides blow up.
Yeah,
That's just
pretty much.
Animal Kingdom. It's good to be human.
It's vicious. It's a vicious thing. So obviously I tend to get on an obsessive tangent and just essentially Google and go down rabbit holes of rabbit holes of rabbit holes. And I found this interesting statistic, okay, that essentially answered my worries about what if people die after sex? Is it a thing? Does it even happen?
Didn't I just say it was a really great way to go?
Yeah, it might be a great way to go, but I wouldn't want
also
to
might
die,
not
to be
be
fair. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be found in my sticky dead.
It'll be good to go while you're busy and you're drinking some coffee.
Imagine the traumatization for your loved one. Okay. And then again, it doesn't matter because you're dead. So I found this great post on Forbes, which basically reinforces all the worries, but also not. Fortunately, it turns out that not many people die because of sex and after sex and related to sex.
Y'all are not vigorous enough. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. So scientists were also wondering this, particularly scientists from Oregon, where they studied 4,500 cases of death surrounding late nights and surrounding what they would call good evenings. Okay, and they
Very
found
good
that
evenings.
of the 4,500 cases, only about 1,000 of those were around the time that sex happened, that they copulated, that
okay,
they were at parties. And of the 1,000, only 34, I believe it was, actually died because of the sex, because of things that went wrong during sex.
It's less than what, like 1%?
Yeah, it's about 1 in every 100 men, and about 1 in every 1,000 women. So the total statistics is 32 people, 32 men and only 2 women died around sex. Now they're calling this a sudden cardiac arrest, which is SCA, I believe. Now what happens is you're going so vigorously, you're essentially pumping adrenaline. I'm thinking pumping adrenaline through your hearts, and you're just go into you get a heart attack and you die. Now this happened essentially within minutes or within a few hours of the actual act of sex, and that's what they are calling sudden cardiac arrest during sex. So it's not a common thing, but it can happen, and I just thought that's a statistic you might want to know. Now,
an American statistic. Anyway.
Yes, an American statistic. It might happen more in South Africa, less in Europe.
But I see. Wait. So, dying during pumping allegedly is minuscule, but now it seems you can die from having too good of an orgasm. Thank you, Edward.
Yes. So yeah, that's
not
the other thing.
The news we wish to hear.
Going down this further rabbit hole of ejaculation and sex and dying because of the two, I found that very recently, a 35-year-old man died, and I kid you not, the reason for death is excessive orgasm. That's the reason of death.
That sounds like a good way to go.
I wouldn't think so, because as the post wasn't too long and the information isn't too scarce, but it's an African man by the name of Charles Mojawa. Sorry if I'm butchering your family name, and one of them is listening. He was having sex with his partner, and he peaked and he orgasmed, and he just continued orgasming, and it continued, and blood vessels ruptured, and he died. And that's terrifying. I'm literally getting the goosies. It's so I wouldn't say That's literally terrifying me. It's a scary thought, and I couldn't find any other example of this because in many American states, especially,
Now, just to clarify,
it's
it was
private.
blood vessels in his brain. It wasn't like it was blood vessels in his penis from
Yes,
the
no,
orgasm. So
his penis didn't.
it was just so good
That he just.
he had a brain
It was
aneurysm from the
mind-blowing.
pleasure. Yeah, it's
It was
literally
a
mind-blowing.
mind-blowing orgasm.
Like I said,
Yeah.
that is a way to go. Because, when we spoke about coffee earlier and I mentioned, how much you have to drink to kill you, I would imagine that's from cardiac arrest because the
Yes.
caffeine would make your heart beat so
Yeah,
fast. But
Exactly.
this, it's so pleasurable that you die from a bad headache. Sign me up, bitch.
I don't know. The migraine I had yesterday, was bad. Now, I've had worse than that in the past. Imagine getting that while on your bed,
yes.
while laying down.
But what if your brain confuses the pain for pleasure? So it just ends
Oh,
up being
boy.
ecstasy, and then you see the light and you go.
Just a bloody ecstasy. Listen, if that's the case, fine. Take me, orgasm gods. But honestly, I would want to live another day to have another orgasm more than having the ultimate mind-blowing orgasm. That's all I'm saying. Maybe less is more in this case. Unfortunately, many death cases are usually private, especially in America, so I couldn't find
many more
of this. But the fact that there is an actual cause of death listed as excessive orgasm, which caused blood vessels in the brain to rupture, that's an official medical official cause of death.
That's interesting because normally, as you mentioned in the previous studies, right, it would be like cardiac arrest. That would be the way to go because maybe you're unfit and you're just not healthy enough, and maybe you have cholesterol, whatever the case is, so your heart gives out.
Yeah.
In this one, he had so much pleasure, his brain exploded.
He just kept on.
Good job, Charles. Good job. And whatever sex worker you were with, she now has a reputation for mind-blowing.
Literally. She's the mind-blowing one. It's just a scary ass thought.
I think it's beautiful.
Maybe.
And that's the end of NSFW.
And on that mind-blowing note, it's also the end of the show.
Yes. End of episode, of Gettle 47 of season 2, episode 5.
Yes.
So thank you to everybody who joined us. Ed, thank you for a wonderful episode. It was nice to great. Once again have our weekly sesh of all the things that we love to speak about.
Weekly informational.
Yes. And for those of you who continue to listen and watch, thank you so much for the continued support. We really appreciate it. And as always, our DMs are open. So if you find anything cool, interesting that you reckon we should be speaking about, please do let us know.
Just send it our way, yeah.
But yeah, until the next episode, we will hope you have a wonderful week. Until then, ciao for now.
Bye.